Good morning. Today is Tuesday, September 12th, 2023. Everyone goes through hard times. Everyone is dealing with something you may not know about. Some more serious, some less serious, some catastrophic. And there are some of us who are overwhelmed as we approach Rosh Hashanah. Not with cooking, not with shopping, not with entertaining, but with a difficulty that has taken over our lives. And the idea of introspection, focusing on God as a melech, as a sovereign, Rosh Hashanah as a Yom Hadin, a day of judgment, prayer, repentance, all of those things. We know these things, but at this moment, for some of us, it's as if they are in a language we don't recognize. They appear unrelated to the reality of what we are trying to go through. Last year, a tragedy befell my youngest brother and his family. They live in Jerusalem. My brother is a teacher of advanced Talmud in one of the world's premier institutions of Jewish learning. Several years ago, Marcy and I had the privilege to attend the wedding of his oldest daughter in a transcendent setting overlooking the entire city of Jerusalem. About 2.5 years ago, my niece found out that she was expecting their third child. And her husband, Yaakov, a wonderful, gentle, brilliant, 27-year-old scholar, was diagnosed with a brain tumor, stage 4, no cure. My brother devoted himself to trying to save his son-in-law's life, of course, together with all of us, through emotional prayer, beseeching God for mercy to change this evil decree. But my brother did much more. He traveled the globe using his considerable energy and intellect to research experimental treatments, to meet with doctors, to facilitate funding for promising experimental therapies, which extended Yaakov's life and quality of life. My brother actually started a new company together with a scientist in Germany to further promising treatment for brain tumors. Without exaggeration, my brother, the Talmud teacher, is a leading expert in the treatment of brain cancer. About a year ago, Yaakov, surrounded by his wife and 3 children, passed away. And after that, my brother shared some of his thoughts and feelings with me and with others, a small part of which I'll share with you this morning. Of course, every loss is unique. Everyone grieves differently. Everyone deals with crises and catastrophes differently. There is no right or wrong. But this is just one person's articulation of what the process feels like for him. And it resonates and inspires me. Perhaps it will be meaningful to you. My brother wrote, "For 16 months, this is the time from the diagnosis until the passing of his son-in-law, about 16 months, I have been considering death and its implications, but only in the abstract. For these 16 months, I never considered or imagined the actual reality unfolding for my son-in-law, my daughter, my grandchildren. At times, various tableaux have appeared as if frames in a movie, unbidden, unwanted apparitions materializing in my mind's eye. I immediately silenced these images because these apparitions, left to their own devices, would leave me immobile, paralyzed by a morbid combination of panic and dread, leading me to descend against my will into a fathomless well of profound, indescribable sadness. And I knew full well that to allow this paralysis would render impossible any effort on my part to try to save him, much as a paramedic or a soldier must suppress their emotions in order to perform their work. I could not allow paralysis for Yaakov's sake, although it was obvious to me that this suppression would exact an emotional toll. My silence these last few days, so he wrote this just a few days after his son-in-law passed away, just a few weeks before last Rosh Hashanah. My silence has arisen from my being unable or unwilling, or both, to actually write in words what has happened. It is certainly not unexpected. His illness is essentially synonymous with the outcome which has transpired. Although I can write much about Yaakov, about his beautiful, heartwarming smile, his boundless generosity of spirit, his unique sense of humor, yet I simply cannot write the words why he is not here, to where he has gone. I cannot, will not, imbue this surreal reality with the tangible permanence of words. Sometimes it seems as though the only thing we really have, and the only thing we really have to give, is the tears we cry. Jewish faith considers death as not the end of the journey, rather as a way station, albeit a way station of exquisite pain. But it's a way station toward the ultimate destination of rebirth. I have been giving much thought to prayer. I believe that much of what we see and perceive in this world and our role in it is in fact the direct inverse of the truth of reality as it actually exists. So we must learn to consider the inverse of what we think is real. A baby is taken by its mother to the doctor for a vaccination. Upon insertion of the needle, the baby cries bitterly, perhaps not so much in pain as in shock and disbelief. His own mother, who embodies for him the meaning of love, today has held him tightly in her arms while giving him over to the cold, razor-sharp tip of a steel implement, deliberately causing him as of yet unknown pain. The baby is totally unable to reconcile this with everything he knows with certainty about his mother's love for him. His mother is herself traumatized by this experience. She cannot even attempt to explain that this was purely an act of love, so the mother is left to convey what she can by touch, by warmth. She holds her baby close, soothes him with her presence, and tries desperately to communicate to him that her love is true, It is still there, despite his pain. She has never ceased loving him, even for a moment. We are, in this lifetime, forever that baby, unable to discern the meaning of our pain, facing the seemingly insurmountable challenge of perceiving God's love for us through the veil of our tears, buried as we often are in the fog of sadness and suffering, which often envelops us completely. Yet we do know this. We too have felt enough of God's love to believe in it, to believe in his limitless, eternal love for us. My grandfather would often quote the lines etched into the cellar wall in the Dachau concentration camp. I believe in the sun even when it is not shining. I believe in love even when feeling it not. And I believe in God even when God is silent. 8 or 9 months after Yaakov's diagnosis, he and Aviva, my niece, gave birth to a beautiful baby girl who they named Miriam. She is a remarkably happy, smiley baby. The initial thought one thinks upon seeing Miriam inevitably is, if she only knew. The harsh, bitter reality of the circumstances into which she was born can only conjure up tears and pain. Yet she continues to smile, radiant with delight. But the vast chasm between what Miriam knows and what we know is infinitesimal compared to the chasm whose size is that of eternity itself, which separates that which we know and that which God knows. If only we knew the truth which underlies our own reality, the true eternal context of our lives. If only we knew. As I contemplate birth and death, it occurs to me that the truth is the inverse of what we perceive. What we perceive as birth, or the soul descending from heaven into the body of a newborn, is in actuality, from the soul's perspective, more rightly considered death than birth. The solitary confinement of a heavenly, eternal being in a physical, temporal body is a deathly torment for the soul. What we perceive as death, or the soul ascending to heaven, having departed the body of one who has passed, is in actuality, from the soul's perspective, more rightly considered birth than death. The release of a heavenly, eternal being from the imprisonment inside a physical, temporal body is a life-giving rebirth for the soul. And so too in regard to prayer. We tend to think of prayer as a means to an end. We have a list of needs and wants. We therefore approach God in order to receive from God the fulfillment of our needs and wants. It seems to me again that the inverse is true. The purpose of prayer is not to receive the fulfillment of our needs and wants. Rather, the purpose of our having needs and wants is prayer. Prayer is not a means to an end. Rather, our list of needs and wants is a means for us to approach God, to speak to God, to ask for God's closeness. My brother writes, I do not judge the success or failure of my prayers by whether God has granted my request or refused. Rather, for me, A successful prayer is one in which I have managed to feel closer to God. A prayer in which I have overcome the intrusion of the mundane, distracting thoughts and found a moment of intimate silence with God. Those tears which I cry to God alone are for me the very essence of prayer. So much of life's exquisite beauty is inextricably intertwined with so much of life's exquisite pain. The challenge now, after the fact, is in trying to allow the pain of Yaakov's absence to fade while enabling the transcendent beauty of Yaakov's life to endure forever. I think often of a story my grandfather would tell of the famous painter Pierre-Auguste Renoir, who suffered from debilitating arthritis for the last 3 decades or so of his life, yet he continued to produce masterpieces. At times, unable to hold the paintbrushes within his grasp, he would have them strapped to his wrist to continue painting. The young artist Matisse asked him why he still painted in spite of such agonizing pain. And Renoir answered, "The pain passes, yet the beauty remains." My friends, I wish for my brother and his family, and for every one of us, for whatever has befallen us, that in the coming new year, the pain will pass, while the beauty remains. Shana Tova. I wish you all a great day, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person.